Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that you might not expect,
Oh,
an Islamic lobbying action plan.
okay.
And it's designed for young Muslims.
Interesting.
But before you think we're about to uncover some kind of political conspiracy,
Right.
let me assure you it's actually a fascinating framework for personal and public development, all rooted in an Islamic perspective.
Oh.
Our sole source today is going to be an excerpt from this action plan.
It's interesting how this document blends personal growth with active engagement in the community.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just studying your faith.
Uh-huh.
It encourages you to actually apply Islamic principles to become a more effective and influential person.
Yeah, and what I find really intriguing is this whole concept of learning by doing.
Right.
It's central to the plan.
Yeah.
And they emphasize that growth doesn't just happen in a classroom or in a mosque, but through actually going out and shaping yourself and your community simultaneously.
You know, this framework really challenges conventional views of personal development,
Yeah.
especially within a religious context. It's saying that becoming a better Muslim isn't separate from engaging with the world around you.
Right.
It's about integrating the two.
Okay, so let's break down this concept of integrated development a bit further.
Okay.
The document highlights two key areas:
Uh-huh.
personal growth and public engagement.
Right.
And they stress that these two things work in tandem.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, participating in public discussions.
Yes.
It's not just about you expressing your viewpoint.
Uh-huh.
It's also seen as a way to strengthen your faith and your communication skills.
At the same time,
Yeah.
it's a very holistic approach,
Yeah.
focusing on developing well-rounded individuals
Right.
who can then contribute meaningfully to their community.
Yes. And it goes beyond just religious study,
It does.
encompassing a wide range of personal and professional skills. And this is where it gets really interesting. When you think about personal development within a religious context, you might picture things like prayer,
Yeah.
studying scripture.
Uh-huh.
But this plan also emphasizes modern practical skills
Right.
like public speaking,
Okay.
entrepreneurship, and even emotional intelligence.
It even delves into content creation,
Yeah.
lobbying, and mastering online platforms
Really?
like LinkedIn and Twitter.
This is fascinating.
It's this unexpected blend of traditional Islamic practice
Yeah.
and modern communication tools.
It's really interesting. It's almost like they're saying, hey, to be an effective Muslim in today's world, you need both ancient wisdom and modern know-how.
Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought that studying classic Islamic texts and building your LinkedIn profile would be on the same to-do list?
This unique approach is precisely why this framework is so compelling.
Uh-huh.
It challenges our assumptions about what it means to be a young Muslim in the 21st century,
Okay.
advocating for strategic and confident engagement with society,
Rather than
retreating from it.
Yeah. So we've got this foundation of personal development,
Right.
but then the plan shifts gears to public engagement, where
Right.
you take that inward growth and turn it into outward influence.
I see.
And they start with something familiar,
Okay.
focusing on family and friends.
Makes sense.
The document refers to this as dawah,
Yeah.
which essentially means sharing Islamic values and encouraging your loved ones to deepen their own practice.
It's about nurturing those close relationships
Yeah.
where faith can be shared organically,
Uh-huh.
recognizing that positive change often begins in those intimate circles.
Right.
But the plan doesn't stop there.
It expands outward,
Yes.
encouraging young Muslims to broaden their influence beyond their immediate circle
Okay.
through things like halakas,
Which are?
essentially study circles,
Okay.
community centers, and of course, social media.
Right.
There's a real emphasis on unity and collaboration here,
Wow.
working with mosques and organizations to increase outreach and make a tangible impact.
It's a transition from individual action to collective effort,
Yeah.
recognizing the power of working together to achieve common goals.
And then it takes another significant step,
Oh.
delving into the realm of political and community engagement.
And this is where things get especially thought-provoking.
Right. This Islamic lobbying concept might raise some eyebrows.
Yeah.
So let's dive into what it actually entails.
Okay.
The plan encourages young Muslims to learn about Islamic governance,
Uh-huh.
which essentially means understanding how Islamic principles can be applied to political and social systems.
Interesting.
It also promotes building relationships with policymakers
Okay.
and advocating for Muslim rights and community development.
I see.
They even suggest running public awareness campaigns on topics like Islamic finance and ethics.
So it's like they're saying, don't just observe from the sidelines.
Right.
actively participate in shaping your society.
Exactly.
It's about understanding the systems, learning to influence them, and working towards a more just and equitable world for everyone.
It's important to note, though, that this isn't advocating for a separatist approach.
Absolutely.
It's about engaging with the broader political and social landscape,
Right.
while staying true to Islamic values. So we see that this framework isn't just about lofty principles.
Yeah.
It gets down to brass tacks
Okay.
and offers a very specific action plan with daily, weekly, and monthly steps to achieve tangible results.
Interesting.
They really emphasize consistent progress.
Like?
We're talking about concrete actions like recite the Quran daily with meaning and tafsir,
Which means?
with an understanding of its interpretation.
Got it.
Engage in one Islamic learning session.
Okay.
Work on career and personal development.
It's a structured and methodical approach
Yeah.
to both self-improvement and community engagement, centered on setting clear goals, making plans, and holding yourself accountable.
But it's not about piling on more and more tasks and information.
Right.
In fact, the document actually addresses the problem of information overload,
Oh, wow.
something I think we can all relate to in today's world.
Right.
They emphasize the importance of clarity, simplicity,
Okay.
and real-world application over abstract debates.
So not getting bogged down in.
Complex theological discussions
Right.
before mastering the fundamentals. They even give this humorous example of this unproductive discussion that could derail the entire process.
Like what?
Something about debating nafs conscious versus rus superconscious.
It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest actions can be the most impactful.
Right.
They advocate for focusing on what truly matters
Yes.
and avoiding getting lost in the noise.
That's a great point. They seem to be saying, if you want to learn Islam, truly live it, engage with the world, and make a difference.
It's about self-improvement through action,
Yeah.
with public engagement seen as a way to build confidence, emotional intelligence, leadership skills. It's all connected.
The ultimate goal seems to be to shape young Muslims into knowledgeable, proactive, and visionary individuals who can influence their surroundings rather than being passively shaped by them.
It's a powerful vision.
It is.
And it definitely challenges some preconceived notions people might have about how religious communities approach growth and influence in the modern world.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's interesting how this framework flips the script on what we might assume about religious development.
Okay.
Instead of advocating for isolation to preserve faith,
Right.
it promotes engagement with the world,
Even
even the messy parts,
Right.
to create positive change.
And what's really fascinating is how this engagement is directly linked back to personal growth.
Yeah.
It's not a one-way street.
Right.
They're saying that stepping out of your comfort zone and working to influence your community actually fosters your own personal development.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's this idea of learning Islam by living Islam in action.
Right.
Knowledge alone isn't enough. You have to put it into practice. And in their view, that includes public engagement and actively advocating for what you believe in.
It's almost like a feedback loop.
It is.
Your personal growth fuels your public engagement,
Yes.
which in turn fuels more personal growth.
It's definitely a dynamic process, not a static one.
Mm-hmm.
And it recognizes that faith isn't just something you hold internally.
Right.
It's something you express and embody through your actions in the world.
So let's dive deeper into this action plan
Okay.
and explore some of the specifics that they lay out.
Good idea.
As we mentioned earlier, it gets very granular, offering concrete steps you can take on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis.
And what's striking is the emphasis on consistency.
Uh-huh.
It's not about making grand gestures or sporadic bursts of activity.
Right.
It's about cultivating habits
Okay.
and making steady progress over time.
It's like building a muscle, right?
Yeah,
You don't get ripped by going to the gym once a month.
exactly.
It's the daily effort, the consistent practice.
Right.
That brings about real change.
And that's reflected in the specific actions that they recommend.
Okay.
For example, on a daily basis, they suggest reciting the Quran
Okay.
with meaning and tafsir,
With meaning and tafsir, what does that mean?
which means reflecting on its interpretation
Okay.
and understanding its deeper layers.
So it's not just about reading the words.
No.
It's about engaging with the text on an intellectual and spiritual level.
Right. And alongside that, they recommend engaging in some form of Islamic learning every day,
Okay.
whether it's reading a book, watching a lecture, or even just having a thought-provoking conversation.
It's about making learning a part of your daily routine.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And they also emphasize the importance of dawah
Yeah.
in everyday interactions.
Right, sharing Islamic values and insights. But
Exactly.
with those around you.
It's about weaving your faith into the fabric of your daily life,
Yeah.
not just keeping it separate in a box.
Yeah. Exactly. And beyond the spiritual practices, they also encourage daily skill development,
Yeah.
like working on your writing public speaking or learning Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that really stands out to me. It's not just about religious knowledge.
Right.
It's about equipping yourself with practical skills that
Yeah.
can be applied in any area of life.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about your own career goals. Are there any skills mentioned here that could give you an edge?
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of being a well-rounded individual,
Right.
capable of navigating different aspects of life effectively.
So once you've established those daily practices,
Yeah.
the plan then encourages you to step it up a notch with weekly actions.
Okay.
What are some of the things they recommend on a weekly basis?
Well, they suggest things like writing or sharing an Islamic-themed post online,
Okay.
participating in a study circle or discussion group,
Uh-huh.
attending or organizing a community event.
It's taking that inward knowledge and starting to share it outward.
Ex-
Engaging with a wider community
And of course, they emphasize continuing to work on your career and personal development,
throughout the week.
right? It's about making consistent progress on all fronts.
And then each month, the plan challenges you to take on something even bigger,
Oh, wow.
something that pushes you outside your comfort zone.
Right. They encourage you to conduct a major dawah activity,
Okay.
which could be giving a public talk,
Uh-huh.
writing an article, even recording a podcast.
Huh.
They also suggest meeting with influential figures or organizations to discuss Islamic issues.
Uh-huh.
And importantly, dedicating time to learning a new skill,
Yeah.
whether it's related to your faith or your profession.
I like how they encourage you to constantly challenge yourself
Yeah.
and expand your sphere of influence, but with all this focus on action and engagement,
Uh-huh.
they also caution against losing focus,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Remember that humorous example they gave about the nafs conscious versus Drew superconscious debate? It's a reminder that it's easy to get caught up in abstract discussions
Uh-huh.
that don't necessarily translate into real-world impact.
It's like saying, hold on, let's master walking before we try to run a marathon.
Right.
Or in this case, let's get the basics of Islamic practice down before we dive into complex theological debates.
Exactly. It's about keeping things clear, simple, and actionable,
Okay.
prioritizing practical knowledge
Yeah.
that can be applied in everyday life.
It's a call for pragmatism,
Yeah.
for focusing on actions over words
Uh-huh.
and making a tangible difference in the world. I'm curious, what do you think this action plan, with its emphasis on integrated development, tells us about the aspirations of young Muslims today?
I think it points to a desire for a more holistic approach to faith,
Okay.
one that seamlessly integrates personal growth with public contribution.
Uh-huh.
They're not content with simply adhering to rituals
Right.
or passively accepting the status quo.
They want to be active agents of change, both within themselves and in the world around them. They want to make a real impact.
And what's particularly interesting is how this resonates with contemporary trends
Yeah.
in personal development, entrepreneurship, and social activism.
Yeah.
It's not a rejection of modernity, it's an embrace of it,
Yeah.
but on their own terms, guided by their Islamic values.
It's a fascinating blend of tradition and innovation,
It is.
taking these ancient principles
Ah.
and applying them to the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century.
And it challenges the often simplistic narratives about Islam and Muslims
Right. Yeah.
that we see in the media.
Yeah.
It presents a much more nuanced and complex picture,
Okay.
one that highlights the diversity of thought and aspiration within the Muslim community.
It's a reminder that there's no single Muslim experience.
Right.
There are countless ways of living and expressing one's faith.
Yeah.
This action plan offers just one perspective, one approach among many. It reminds us that we should be wary of generalizations and stereotypes,
Mhm.
and instead seek to understand the richness and complexity of individual experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This deep dive into the Islamic Lobbying Action Plan has given us a lot to consider.
It has.
It challenges us to think about how personal growth and public engagement can intersect,
Uh-huh.
how faith can be a driving force for positive change,
Right.
and how traditional values can be adapted and applied in the modern world.
It's also highlighted the importance of moving beyond passive learning
Yeah.
and taking action, embracing a more hands-on approach to self-improvement and community building. What resonated most with you as we explored this framework? Did anything challenge your preconceptions?
You know what struck me is the emphasis on integration.
Uh-huh.
It's not about compartmentalizing different aspects of life,
Okay.
faith work, personal development, community engagement.
Yeah.
It's about weaving them together into a cohesive whole,
Yeah.
recognizing that they're all interconnected.
I see that too. It's recognizing that personal growth can ripple outward and have a positive impact on our communities.
Right.
And conversely, engaging with the world around us can enrich and shape our own lives. That leads to a fascinating question.
Mm.
How could these principles of integrated development, learning through action, and connecting personal growth with public contribution be applied in other areas of life, even outside a religious context?
That's a great question to ponder.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how we can be more intentional about aligning our actions with our values and how we can each use our own personal growth to make a positive impact on the world around us.
It really is food for thought.
It is.
It's about creating a cycle of growth, contribution, and fulfillment. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. We hope this exploration has sparked your curiosity and given you some new perspectives to consider. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking those connections between your inner world and the world around you.